future of work, attracting and retraining talent in our industry. Panel discussion. I'm going to invite a most aptly positioned moderator for this, the Worldchefs Young Chef Development Committee Chairman, Mr. Alan Oriel, the young man. And if you could join me on stage, Alan, then you can introduce your panelists.
Test, test. Thank you, Andy. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Isn't it great to be at Congress? Isn't it fantastic? All right. We're going to have a really great discussion today. The future of work, and our particular discussion is about retaining talent and keeping it in the industry. We have some amazing panelists with us. First of all, the lovely Ilham Buklin. Please come up and join us on the stage.
Baluki.
Baluki. Yeah, she's with the panel, and she's working with, she has an MBA. She's working in the hospitality of the Emirates at the Academy of Hospitality. And she's going to talk mostly about education and how we're going to retain talent. Also, John Law's with us. He's from Hosco. He's the Director of Strategic Partnerships. Please come on up, John. John has a presentation for us, and Frank Bordoni is with us as well. Frank, come on up. He represents the industry. And of course, Dale Lyman. Dale Lyman's with us from Australia, from William Inglis College. And Dale represents the chefs in all of us on this panel. Yeah, any way you like, guys. Any way you like.
I'm going to be very cheeky, Alan. Can I be cheeky for a minute?
Yes, please.
I just want to explain about Ilham Baluki. Ilham is a young Emirati lady that I've known for 10 years plus, who studied at the Emirates Academy of Hospitality Management and now works at the Dubai College of Tourism as a lecturer in hospitality. She's an Emirati lady that took the challenge to enter hospitality. So she, for me, is the pioneer, as I call the young Emirati people like Ilham. And for a young lady to enter into the hospitality industry within the United Arab Emirates, it's very challenging, both culturally and also from your family. So she is brave, and she is a shining example of what her people are doing for their people here in the United Arab Emirates. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Andy. Big round of applause. Congratulations to all of you for being here, and especially you. And I'm really excited to have all of you on the panel. I know that John's going to have a presentation, and he's going to help us set up the conversation that we're going to have. But I posed 5 questions to this group. One of them is about COVID and how the industry is going to recover its reputation, where it can, and how to build a career again within the industry now that COVID's affected us all so much. The second question was, how does the career path look now after COVID, or even 10 years ago? Is it still a straight line? Is it zigzagging? I'm going to hear what the panelists have to say, and I'm sure they have some really amazing insights for us all. Some other questions that we're going to cover is going to be, what are the new hot buttons in to retain talent? Because that's what this conversation is about. How do we retain talent? How do we keep them in the industry? How do we attract them to the industry? And then certainly, how does industry need to flex? And what tools do we need? And so we're going to have some great conversations about that. But John, I think we should start with you a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself for those folks who don't know you, and then you can have your presentation.
Sure, we good? Okay. Yeah, pleasure to be here, Alan. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Innovation for Hosco. To put it in simple terms, Hosco is like a LinkedIn for hospitality. Right. Actually, my CEO hates when I say that, but it's the easiest way to understand it. Yeah, we've created a network that has hospitality students, alumni, and professionals, of which number around 1.5 million in this platform. And we connect them with employers. So our main function is to help these talents find a job, find a connection, and find learning.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. John, sorry, Frank, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your industry and the company that you work for.
Hi, that's it. Okay, so I work for Shire, and we're a big, obviously, employer in this industry. I think it's a really great topic because I think there's been a revolution in the way that we need to work and look after our talent, and particularly moving forward. So I'm really interested in getting involved in that.
Yeah, because all of them are replied to the questions I had, so I'm very eager and keen to see the responses we're going to have from the audience. And I think the perspective is going to be super interesting. So Dale, you're a lecturer in probably one of the finest colleges in Australia, in Melbourne. Hi, everybody. We thought we were having a private conversation. Hello. So Dale, your perspective, you're working with young people every day. Industry has changed. What have you seen changing in the industry, and in particular with training?
So training is changing. I think there's a bit of a revolution. I think it's pretty generally expected or regarded now that teachers aren't sort of the font of information that stand there and try and fill up the empty vessel of the student. We need to work with the student. We need to help them construct their own knowledge and help them actually build their own knowledge. So, we sort of call that constructivist approach, and we're using lots of different pedagogy to sort of bring that around.
Fantastic. We're going to talk more about that later. And Elam, how about you? A very interesting perspective about locally. What's happening here might be different to globally perspective. Do you think it is, or you think it's the same?
No, definitely. I mean, when I started working at the Dubai College of Tourism, right at the start, I was tasked as an experiential learning manager, which connects the students with not only the industry, but also internships and really the practical experiential learning that they gain. I started in COVID, which was great because I got to see, 2020 versus 2021, the let's say, industry interest in recruiting students, whether for internships or full-time employment. So there's been a few trends that hopefully we'll discuss.
Absolutely. I'm really keen to talk to you about how internships have changed. They've certainly changed in the 2 different countries I've been working in recently. And so we can talk about that in more detail. John, would you like to make a presentation?
All right.
Because I think it'll set us up for the rest of the conversation.
Okay, let's do it. I'm going to kind of wander around here a bit because I don't like to be stuck behind a platform. But yeah, once again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to Ragnar for the kind invitation. And it is my first Worldchefs Congress. I am a newbie. And as you can tell by my dress, I am not a chef in any way, shape, or form. I'm not even that good of a cook, actually. And my palate is probably limited because I'm originally from the middle of nowhere in the United States. But I do understand one little niche, and that is attracting and retaining talents into the hospitality industry. And the reason I understand that is because I represent the company Hosco. Now, you may not know Hosco, but we like to say we're the home for hospitality because we have 1.5 million talents on our platform. And as I mentioned earlier, these are students from hospitality and culinary schools, many of which are World Chef members. These are alumni from those same schools, and these are companies. And what are the companies trying to do right now, guys?
Get more talent.
Get more talent. We've been talking a lot about sustainability, and we'll continue talking about it, as well as plant-based foods. But the other huge issue the industry is facing right now is manpower shortages. Who cares if you have a plant-based menu or not if you don't have people to serve the menu? Yeah? So Hosco's role in this whole thing is to understand what's happening and to help you understand what the talents are looking for and the employers. But before we can do that, we got to talk about this guy, who everybody knows and loves, right? Aren't you sick of this graphic? Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
I am too. And you know what? Thankfully, let's hope, to God's sake, that it's not going to be so much of an issue anymore. But it was an issue in the past. So Hosco, we also gather research from all of these members we have, and we do something called a talent trend report. And in 2021, that report said that guy put 120 million direct travel and tourism jobs at risk, and 60 million jobs need to be filled. 60 million. How many World Chef schools do you have, Ragnar? Okay, we're going to need a couple more, please. Yeah? 60 million jobs. Now, the highlights to this are that employers are hiring again, thankfully. 47%, according to our survey with our employers, said they're hiring. 64% plan to reach a pre-COVID headcount by Q3 of 2022. But there are lowlights, too. 27% do not expect to get back to pre-COVID staffing levels until Q1 of 2023. And again, that lovely number, 60 million professionals need to be hired. So we are facing a crisis of manpower shortage here. And it's not Europe, it's not Asia, it's everywhere. Every continent, every country is having this problem. So we really need to be asking ourselves, what are the talents looking for? And what are the trends? Now, why should we care about trends? Guys, trends come and go, right? But you know who's really susceptible to trends? Young people. They really cue into it. In fact, those trends are often set by the young people. So let's look briefly at the 3 major trends that those young people are asking for right now. Technologies, something called sustainability. I know you've never heard of it, totally new concept, but it's called sustainability. And the Great Resignation. First off, technologies. Now, when I say technologies, I'm sure you're thinking of robots. Yes, robots that are going to take all of our jobs and put us all out of business, right? No, not those robots. These robots. Robots of automation. What happens when employers can't hire, when they can't find the talents they're looking for? Well, they turn to innovation. And while these concepts of robot waiters and whatnot really seem to be sci-fi, it's not so sci-fi anymore. What you're seeing here is a project from the Hotel of Tomorrow. And they envisioned the idea of a deconstructed restaurant that said, you know what? Why does food have to come to you where you're sitting? What if you can be anywhere and the food can come to you? We don't need benches and chairs and tables if we have robots. And of course, those robots are easily hireable because they're easily manufacturable. I'm sure in other presentations, other conferences, you've seen robot chefs doing mundane tasks, but it's coming. And the reason it's coming is because of the manpower shortages. Now, why should young talents care about this? They should care because their coworker could be a robot in the future. And you need to ask them, is that what you want? Because I don't think they do. I don't think they want robots as coworkers in the future. I think they want coworkers as coworkers. Because this is the people industry, and the young people, the students, the alumni of these schools, want to be around people. But the other technology that's coming is the Internet of Things, the IoT. And again, I'm sure it's a topic you've heard many times. But the funny thing about IoT is its data collection. And how many of you here are from Europe? Anyone raise your hand? Ragnar, quite a few. Remember GDPR? We all had to go through GDPR, global data protection regulations, etc. And the young people were, oh, GDPR, data. Well, strangely enough, now data collection is being quite acceptable by young people. We've talked to the schools, and we've even seen projects done by Institut Paul Bocuse, for example, did a project. And young people were happy to sacrifice their data privacy in order to A, have a better guest experience, and B, have a safer and more healthy experience. So these technologies are coming into the industry, and there's 2 questions to ask. Is it going to be attractive or unattractive to the talent? Is it going to be something where you are going to say, you know what, we actually use a data collection policy to enhance the guest experience? Is that going to be attractive or unattractive? The jury is still out. The most important thing, however, is that when you are attracting young talents, you understand how to discuss technologies and their role at your establishments. Second one, as I said, sustainability. A lot of ways to be sustainable. Let me show you an example of one.
There's a shift in consumer demand that's already underway. Will your kitchen team be in the driving seat, or will you be playing catch-up? Leading during this change requires a team who thinks differently about the role of plants in a 21st century diet, with the skills to match. Plant Forward Kitchen, a training program created by the Culinary Institute of America, will equip your team with contemporary thinking and plant-centric culinary skills to deliver sustainable and flavorsome plant-based offerings at scale. 19 courses deliver interactive learning to cooks and chefs on any device and in multiple languages. And because Plant Forward Kitchen is powered by the Lobster Inc. platform, managers can easily assign training, manage progress, and report on training performance and other analytics. Reframe the way your team thinks about plant-based cooking and lead the change with Plant Forward Kitchen.
So the reason I find this interesting is, one, it's an initiative of HOSCO. We are now working with Lobster Inc. to bring these world-class online industry trainings that are used by Marriott's and Hilton's and Hyatt's and all the big guys to the small guys. And the small guys include schools as well as small and medium-sized businesses. And why are we doing that? Well, yes, of course, we are also buying into the trend of sustainability, which I do honestly believe in. And I attended the Upfield exhibition, and I get it. The CO2 emission thing, I get it. But you know what we also need to think about is that's a trend that young people are attracted to. And so what as schools are you doing to say, we have a program like that? And what as employers are you saying, we have an employer like that, and a program like that? The reason why that program was created, it was done with Google. Google, that's not a restaurant. Yeah, but they have restaurants. Inside the Google company, they want to make a commitment to this initiative. And so they are providing the training and the knowledge to the staff to say, we're in it too. And I think that general awareness needs to come. In attracting a talent, you need to go to the talent trends, and a huge trend is just that, sustainability. You don't have to shift your entire menu to a plant-based menu. You don't have to completely rip down your school, make it a plant-based culinary school, but you have to show we care and we get it, because that is what the young people are looking for. Thirdly, and by all means most importantly, the Great Resignation. Just look at the headlines. Around the world, people are resigning from their jobs. Why? Well, there is no secret that this industry wasn't kind to young people, to young talents coming into it. Pay was bad, hours were long, work-life balance sucked. This is not new. I remember going to conferences 10 years ago, the same topic was happening. But you know what? Now they say enough is enough, and I have options. The competition for a hotel or restaurant is now Amazon. When was that the case before? And why? Because they addressed the things that we didn't. But now we are. There is proof of this change happening. Hilton did a partner with Guild Education so that all the people in their companies could get training not related to their job, but to any other upskilling that they needed. We worked with Preferred Hotels to bring Lobster Inc. into them, again, the small, medium-sized business model. IHG has a new MyFlex. I know we have a lot of Australian colleagues here. You probably know about that, where you can work in a hotel here, here, or here. You pick your position, you pick your time, and you can still be a full-time employee. And there are some, even hotels and restaurants are moving to 4-day work shifts for chefs. So what do we expect? What's finally happening is the value proposition to young people is improving. And this is, Alan, is probably the majority of our discussion. The value proposition. What do they want and what are we offering? Are salaries improving? Yes. Should they have improved a long time ago? You bet they should have. But now, out of necessity, not just nicety, they are. Yeah? It doesn't mean you need to change your business structure entirely. It doesn't mean you need to change your industry entirely. It just means you need to listen and make it visible that you care. Change isn't coming. Change is here for the young people. They want to see that you're forward-thinking by adopting technologies. They want to see that you are thinking about the world by adopting some sustainability practices. And they want to know they're going to get a fair shake at a job in this industry. That's our take on it. But let's see what the others have to say. Thank you very much.
So I think very true and very good points. What do you all think? You all agree? Yes? How many people in the room, because we can see all of you as well, how many people in the room here are hiring right now and finding it difficult? Yeah, that's what we thought. That's what we thought. You know, it's very tough. And so that's why we're going to have a conversation about this. So it's not just about what employers are doing. Of course, they have the lion's share. I think we can all agree on that. But I think from an educational perspective, you know, and I'll start with you, Ella. What do you think is the difference that we need to make, the change we need to make to both attract and retain people to our industry?
Honestly, I think we could have stopped at your presentation because it was pretty much what I was, you know, I loved hearing that because that's what I see. When I started in the industry, I'm a millennial. And so it was like unfortunate to be a millennial. And, you know, it's almost as if I was causing an inconvenience sometimes,
Right.
you know, because millennials don't get it, Gen Z don't get it. That's the general approach of, you know, when you're sitting at interviews and things like that, that's what you hear. And I know that the students at our college or any other college hear similar, let's say, like the perception is the same. So definitely the change is here. I find more and more students, and specifically in culinary, willing to work with standalone restaurants because they're part of that change, as opposed to working in chains. They feel like they're more welcome. They find that the trend in those restaurants is that, well, you are appreciated. There are certain hours that they could stick to, and actually they like the trends that they follow, that the Gen Zs or millennials follow.
Yeah, sure. I think that's entirely true. But at the same time, as John just pointed out in his presentation, hotel groups are now changing. They're realizing, and people are not saying now, or in my perspective, people are not saying now, oh, Gen Z don't get it. We have to understand them. They are the future.
100%.
And I think as an industry, we are the ones who need to flex and change and adapt.
I can add to that. So for example, in our college, we offer a diploma program for culinary. And part of that, they have to work, so basically they do 1 day practical and 1 day theory, and then they work the rest of the week, and that goes on for a year. And the whole purpose is experiential learning. So you apply what you learn into the industry. We had about 6 students who graduated from the certificate program to go into diploma. And it was extremely difficult just last year to convince employers that this is a good structure. They're available on the weekends when you're busy. Your staff themselves as well can get some time to rest because you'll have extra hands. They're on student visas. You pay them what you would pay an intern. So there are lots of benefits to it. But what we found is some students were either pushed to drop out of their education or had to stop halfway and find other employers that could take them, because it seemed as if in the industry that there was a little bit of, let's say they weren't ready for that kind of structure.
Yeah. Do you think that they're changing, Dale, in your perspective, in Australia, for example?
Yeah, well, we're certainly trying to change. We're really working with industry. We have lots of industry advisory boards and lots of industry engagement so that we understand what industry wants. But I think the other side to that also is working with Gen Z and finding out what they want. We know pretty well what they want. They want flexibility, they're entrepreneurial. There's all these sort of skills that they're into, and we need to find different pathways and different avenues to train these students and work with industry so that we can all work together and provide a solution to. And there's going to be lots of different jobs coming up. Healthcare is a big one at the moment. So that's sort of 5% of fine dining that all us old blokes trained everybody for. We need to change that. We need to know that there's going to be lots of different jobs, and some jobs we don't even understand yet. We don't know what they are. They're going to be very different. Yeah.
So, Frank, internships and apprenticeships, are they dead in the water or are they coming back?
I think they are coming back, and maybe not in the same way they used to be, and it's a huge loss that they died out, because apprenticeships and internships across the industry were a great resource, and then they sort of slowly died out, and whether it was funding or political or climate. But I think the industry, as you were saying, has changed massively. So when we were training, so now I'm old, it was quite abusive, I guess, in a way. And we wore it like a badge of pride, but it had its cost, It had its cost on mental health, on burnout, and so on. So I think it's great that sometimes it's the climate that's caused or sped up some of those changes. It's bodies like this at Worldchefs and great employers that have pioneered and pushed it forward, and all of us that have got behind it. So it's a good future, I think.
And many new tools as well, don't you think? I mean, with certification that can be done online and things like that, with the World Chef certification, for example. I know that you probably work with this area, right?
Yeah, I think, we talked about, and certainly it was talked about post-COVID, and what do we do to be more attractive? People have a choice now. They're not feeling like they're trapped in a job, and you have to be attractive. And one of the big things they want is a career pathway. They want to know if they come and join you, what are you going to give them? What are you going to do for them? Do they have a clear pathway? And recognition and reward is huge. Yes. So if you haven't got, and you don't have those facilities or those schools within your organization, you can reach out to other schools, partner with them. You know, the Worldchefs digital badging is an amazing opportunity. It's internationally recognized. So to have access to that kind of thing and for people to wear their badges with pride, it changes the landscape of what you can deliver as an employer.
Yeah, it does. As a body, we've done an amazing job putting this together, and I've used these tools as well myself at Disney when I was in Shanghai. And it's been a huge success, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I want to go back to you, Elam, if you don't mind, John. I know it's probably your turn, but I'll go back to you and just ask you a little bit about...
Actually, I did my part. So.
Right. I'm going to ask you a little bit about how is industry interacting with schools and educational facilities to create change, to adapt to what the needs are?
I could say, for example, last year versus this year, at the college we hosted a career fair, which a lot of companies jumped on that opportunity to be there to interact with the students, because it really gives you a chance to just interview and hire. So it was a really great opportunity to be able to do that. So I think that part of it is very important still for institutes to do, to give students a chance to network, especially when they've been isolated for so long. I think, sorry, going back, you said more regarding the shift in...
The shift in how the industry is relating to schools, and are they interacting with you to create curriculum to make change?
Yes, so we find that the more we explain the purpose of our vocational schooling to the industry, that they are more willing to adjust their, let's say, HR policies and structures to meet us halfway. So like I said, there were definitely organizations that were very open to going to our 3 or 4 day working schedule for our diploma students, because at the end of that, they can recruit them full time, they've worked with them already, they know how it works. So that has shifted a lot in terms of being less strict about your HR policies and seeing the flexibility. I think also because in the UAE, we have now launched a program where anyone over the age of 15 can start working, and they usually work in areas like restaurants and cafes and so on. So it has, let's say, given new light to interns. So there's been more of a need for interns to join the industry, and they're looking at it like from a different light.
Sure.
Yeah.
So John, let me ask you the opposite question. How is schools adapting to what industry is looking for, and what is industry asking for from schools?
Change your model.
Yeah.
Does it take 4 years to create a chef?
You're asking the wrong person, John. It takes longer.
Does it create 4 years to give someone the fundamentals to enter the industry as a chef?
No.
No. Why is it a 4-year school? Why is it not a 3-year school, a 2-year school, a 6-month school? If the demand is astronomical, then we need to produce the supply that can be quickly put into the industry. And understand that not all those supply want to be top chef. There are a lot of people on the lowest rung of the economic ladder who just want to support their families, and maybe on a secondary level in Maslow's hierarchy have self-actualization. But first, it's just supporting their families in many ways. You know, our company is in Barcelona. We have huge immigrant populations in Barcelona. A lot of them come from Colombia, from Brazil, from Peru, and many of them could never afford the culinary schools and the hotel schools around Spain or Barcelona, for God's sake, Switzerland or whatever. But they're needed, and they want. The ironic thing, we're talking about attracting and retaining talent. They want to work, but there's a barrier to work. So what I'm saying is that to meet the supply demand, the schools need to run micro courses, short courses, not producing the Michelin chefs that they all want to put in their programs, but producing the real workforce of the industry. There can be that program for the Michelin chefs, I get it, but there has to be the other side too, on the micro level.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, because we do need the hands, we do need the people working in the industry, and not everyone's a super chef. We don't need a whole brigade of them. We need people still to do the cutting, right? So, and to do the butchery and the garde-manger. But I think that's a really good point. But at the same time, we did dilute what we were doing at the other end of the scale, and that was to train good chefs. And so both things need to happen and meet in the middle. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, to a certain extent, I think also we need to change, the way we think, and we need to build in the 21st century skills, so the collaboration and all these things that are going to come up in the future. That I agree with John that we don't need to put them through a 4-year course. It's taken me a long time to come to that conclusion, because as an old school chef, we kept fighting and fighting against management. The other one is streaming, the dirty word streaming. I believe for a long, long time we should be streaming our students, but you can't get management to agree to that because they think that's a dirty word. But we should be, the fine dining chef should be doing this course. The guys that are doing in a commissary kitchen or a dark kitchen or all these other things that are coming up, they only need to cut and organise and prepare food. So they don't really need the specialised skills. So I believe personally streaming is a good way to go, but how we bring that in is a tough one.
So young people are also not just thinking about those culinary skills, though. They're thinking about, they want to have creative thinking. They want to have management skills, people problem-solving skills. Are we teaching those things?
Definitely. I mean, I think what you're saying is correct. I mean, that's why vocational schools are kind of the backbone of this. It's important to have an outlet that, okay, I learned my fundamentals in the first year, I did an internship, and now I'm ready to join the industry. And you don't have to come back to do a diploma. You don't have to go through the advanced diploma and then look for pathways. As long as you feel like you've gotten the experience and then you work for, let's say, said Michelin star chef, or even just anywhere in the industry, and you feel like, okay, now I can get on with my career. And what the college can also do on the other side is teach you interview skills, teach you how to create a portfolio where you can really showcase what you do for employers, and giving you those soft skills to help you with time management and planning and all these stuff to, let's say, up to supervisory level.
Yeah, we certainly didn't get that in college when we were boys. So
I'm going to be a bit controversial. I think you need to have a platform that puts culinary at the top, at the highest level. It needs to be aspirational, it needs to be inspirational. We worked very hard on our technical understanding, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and we should never devalue that. Yes, you're going to get people that might come into the industry because they need a job and they just want a wage check at the end of the week. We get that. What I've found is that there are still a percentage of those people that once they see opportunity and they see a real ladder and a real pathway, they go, hey, you know what? I actually love what I do. I want to be better, and I want to see where this can go. It might not have been their initial interest for that job, but it's a realization, it's an opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think that it's not just about, it's about attracting talent as well. So we have to interview people, we have to orientate them into their jobs. How is orientation changing in the workplace, do you think? John, maybe I can ask you that.
You're not in control anymore. They are. Simple. You don't say, what are you going to do for me? It's, how can you, how can I convince you to come to me? And that's why I say, for example, if you go to a website of, almost any restaurant or any hotel in the world, how hard is it to find the job section? Scroll to the bottom, get on your glasses, and down there it says career opportunities.
Right.
And then when you look at there, it says, we want you to come to us. It's horrible corporate branding. We believe in you. Yeah.
Right.
There has to be an equal focus on the talent and on the guest. And that has not happened. I believe that the guests will appreciate the restaurants and the hotels even more when they see that focus on talent.
That's an interesting perspective. What do you think?
It is, yeah. I think companies do need to find a way to be an employer of choice or get known to be an employer of choice, however they may choose to do that. As you say, you've got to attract those people, and people are making choice on, why should I go and work for you anymore? Yeah. What are you going to offer me? What's your culture? What's your opportunities? And I think it's a holistic approach that companies need to take, because they need to cater for the whole welfare of people if they want to attract them and they want them to come. And I think engaging, as you say, those little career things at the footnote of a website, they've got to engage on social media and in other platforms that reach the right people. And find interesting ways of doing that.
Absolutely agreed. And what do you think, Dale?
Yeah, I agree with both speakers. It's and I think what we need to do is it's a hard industry, There's not much financial reward in it, in the beginning at least. And you know, we need to maybe tap into what are the intrinsic rewards that students can get out of it. And it might be being part of a team. It might be, you know, that what we worked for what they called passion, which generally meant working lots of hours for no money. But I think we need to really offer.
It did, that's what it meant, right?
That's what passion meant. I hate the word passion now. I think that's an excuse for an employer to make you work 60 hours for 30 hours pay. Yeah, but we need to, you know, find out what are the other rewards that people are getting out of this industry and how we can, you know, really sell those, I guess.
So this afternoon in the next panel after lunch, we're going to have some young people on stage here with John, and they're going to give their perspective. So that's going to be really interesting to hear what they have to say. I can't wait to hear what they have to say after listening to us today. Okay, so I also wanted to talk about hot buttons in the industry and why are people going to stay? What's going to motivate them intrinsically, as Dale was mentioning? What do you think, Ilan?
Actually, as you were having that conversation, I remembered a chat I had with an entrepreneur who had his own business of, basically he has a restaurant that promotes healthy foods, but also they do meal plans and things like that. And he was really pitching it to me, even though in my mindset, I was like, please take some interns, right? So he was really pitching it to me, and he said, we provide mental health days, we have celebrations on certain occasions, we give days off for very specific things that matter to the new generation. And I thought that is so interesting how much certain places are bending over backwards to really attract and to say, look, we care about our chefs coming in. We want them to come in. They work this many hours and they get paid this much and they get this incentive. And if they bring somebody in for our meal plans, we'll give them an incentive. And I thought that was very interesting to see actually how much it's shifted.
And I think for different companies, it's going to be different. You know, needs are going to be different. Employees' needs are going to be different. Mm-hmm. I know in my experience, in fact, Lynn, do we have a presentation that I can show? Yeah, let's just do this real quick. You know, I want to, because I have to wrap up. So I want to show you a little bit. This is Shanghai Disney Resort. I'm sure that some of you may recognize it. That's the culinary team there. And we had the privilege of building it. So this is the behind-the-scenes look before we built. But a long time before we built it, we have 46 outlets and 1,000 culinary people at that resort. And we realized very early on that we had to create a DNA that was going to work for us. We also knew that because Disney had never been there before, we'd have to do something very unique. No one's going to understand our business model anyway, so start from scratch. And that's exactly what we did. And long before the grand opening began, we had this idea that we had to build a DNA. Start from the very basics, and so we did that. And we worked with commis chefs, and we worked with demis, and we created chef de partie roles. And with Worldchefs' help, we created certification programs that led us to certifying people. And we did everything from training for plating and specifications. We had to build every single thing. Trainees and cooks were developed using 2 different streams, as Dale talked about, pastry as well as hot cooking. And then we created a role for CDPs so they could train and learn how to become supervisors. So over the next 2 or 3 years, we created this World Chef program. We graduated hundreds of trainees and commis through the World Chef program, which is fabulous. And they graduated one after the other in different groups. And so that was the beginning of a resort that had nothing to begin with, and then moved on and trained everybody up from fast food. Of course, a little bit Mickey there. Okay. Chinese cuisine, of course, was the main fare all throughout, and we used all 8 major cuisines in China, and then as well as fine dining on the resort. And so we had everything, and the whole team worked really hard, and it was an incredible program. But what we realized is that we needed to have training programs with clear goals, as these folks have demonstrated, with measurable outcomes, because they yield results. So I implore all of you who have this kind of influence to work towards that. Now, a different kind of resort, this is Atlantis in the Bahamas, and it's currently where I am. I've moved from Shanghai Disney Resort. This is a legacy resort, 30-something years old, different problems, different categories. 37 restaurants and bars, a massive convention center, 1,200 rooms. Now, what are the different challenges? Why are they different? Now you have an established older workforce, heavily unionized, and very afraid of change. Why should we change? We've been doing this for a long time. How do we get these people motivated, right? How do we offer them those intrinsic changes, you know, and let them understand that there is something different to what they've been doing? And so we have begun to go back to basics. We created an 8-week program, so everyone that comes in has the same basic program. And then we have OJT cooks and trainees to baseline and establish ourselves. We've got CDPs, junior sous chefs, doing programs and development skills, and we've begun train the trainer for the leaders. So we're looking at every single level, and it's very different. It's very challenging to actually go into an older resort as opposed to starting a new one. That's been my experience so far. But the needs are still the same, is the point. You really need to work with what you've got. We're only 6 months in, but we're beginning to see the fruits of the labor improving. The food's certainly getting better. And although there are sharks and reefs everywhere, well, we must learn to navigate differently. We need the objective is the same, to provide training opportunities for our teams to grow. In the end, as governments pull back and short and privatized training is taking place within the sector, industry and operators struggle unless they take the largest role in OJT. Now, I use a 70-20-10 approach. So 10% exams and classroom, 20% is theoretical, and 70% is actually on-the-job training. And that seems to work well for me and my team, and it's a very common model. And that's how we're dealing with it. And we're seeing really positive results. So working with colleges and training institutions is vital, and the flexibility is key to build the DNA and to keep all the learning. So with that, I want to say thank you to the panel. Thank you to all of you folks for listening to us. And I hope you agree or disagree. We look forward to hearing your feedback. And this afternoon, the young people are going to be on and they're going to tell us what they think. So let's see what they say. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Alan, panel, stay on stage. We'll quickly ask Ragnar Fredriksson to join us on stage to hand out the certificates.
Shall we pull the chairs back?
Unfortunately, our friends from the front row have had to run away to eat lunch, unlike us. We're on a diet. I'd like a few country presidents to come and fill up the front tables. Whoever comes to sit up here, you never know, you might end up on the board one day. Come on, Senet, come and sit next to me here. Alex, where are you, Alex? Few country presidents, few people just to fill up the front row, please. Yeah? Thank you. We're going to move very swiftly into our last session for the last one. And then our next panel is with John Law. Where's John? John, you're already up there. Where are you? Oh, that was Andy. Marcus is here. Christoph is there in his hat. Rebecca. Where is Rebecca? There she is. And Elvin. Half the man he used to be. Obviously, you don't go down to the markets like we used to, you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. Andy, just a quick word. Now we have the young chefs going to say their word, what they think. But just to remind everyone, in the afternoon, there is a breakout session. There is a educators forum. I know education is very close to everybody's heart. So from 2:30, we have a special session. We're going to continue the discussion, but really talking at the educators and the schools. So again, with John Law, we keep him busy today. So well,
keep
next
that
panel.
John Law
Thank
guy
you.
busy. Thank you. Thank you. John, you'll be back. I'll adjust the chairs. Thank you. Right. While we adjust the chairs, let's play a bumper. Five chairs in. One for the moderator. Move that one down a bit. Move that one around a bit. Look at that, perfect. Put it up, put it up. There you go. Here we go. Have no fear, we have the lunch. The lunchroom will be open late today. Look at that new fresh face board. Excellent. I'll take all your names for future reference. Exactly. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the last session before we break for lunch. Industry doing enough? Are we doing enough in young talent? We've just heard from Alan and his group. But what do the young people say? All the oldies are on the stage, so I'll get off. And John, you can come and explain yourself. Thank you, John. Welcome back.
Good to be back. Okay, so what do the young people think? This is probably the most important, actually I think we're here, right? Okay. That's probably the most important thing to really understand behind all this. So let's have our panel join us. If you all could please come on stage, please. In no particular order, or no particular authority. Everyone is equal here. Okay, so, guys, girls, what did you think of the last discussion we just had? It sort of alluded already into the points we're going to talk about right now, which is what is the industry doing to invest, keyword invest, in young talent, and is it the right way? You know, are the young chefs resonating with what the industry is doing? Now, keep that question in mind. I would like you all to briefly introduce yourselves, and then we'll continue on to that discussion. Christophe, let's start with you.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Christophe Mugel. I'm based in Singapore. I'm a chef by trade. Today I'm a serial investor in several businesses. I still own a cooking school back in Vietnam, and we have also a manufacturing plant for kitchen utensil, consultancy arm, and training arm.
Thank you, Christophe. Alvin?
Hi, I'm Alvin. I'm from Singapore. Same, I'm a chef, currently running my own business. I'm also in the Young Chef Ambassador for the development team. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Rebecca Van Bommel. I'm based in Toronto, Canada. I'm a Young Chef Ambassador on the Global Development of Young Chefs Committee, and currently I'm working in food sales.
Thank you.
I'm Marcus Hallgren. I'm the chairman of the education committee and also a very proud senior member of the global development team of young chefs. And I work like, in the ordinary, I work like a headmaster in the culinary school in Sweden.
Great. And if I could ask in the audience, can you just stand up or clap if you are a young chef as well? I want to get a feeling if we are talking to the young or to the old. Anybody here?
They went for lunch.
Younger than 50? Good. For you guys out there, yes, thank you. Anytime you hear something that you agree with, I want you to clap. Can you do that for me? Can you do that for me? And frankly, even if you're not a young chef, I also want you to clap, okay? I want to see if the audience is agreeing also with what we're saying. Yeah? This is important. Christophe's a very important guy, and he needs to catch a flight to a very important meeting. So we're going to start with you, Christophe. Yeah?
Thank you.
One simple word. Describe in one word. What are young chefs looking for?
Okay, I mean, it's a complex question, and I think it has somehow always been the same. Jeffrey, I take you back to your previous discussion panel. I think it was very interesting. And my take is change has always been there. We have to be real. Our industry has constantly evolved. We have never stagnated, okay? However, what's happening today is young individuals have aspiration, no more looking for inspiration. I'm looking for something greater than myself. Can your organization provide that to me? Today, it's not anymore about knowledge and skills. That is a given. I think it's about, as a company, what value proposition do you bring to me? Explain to me the why. Why are we doing what we do every day relentlessly? Why? If you're capable to explain that to me, I will then engage. Now, another statistic, especially in Asia, employee engagement is at a 10% low. 100 employees, 90 come to work to do the job. 10 are engaged. These 10 which are engaged get intrinsic satisfaction. And I presume, these 10% are the talented ones. And again, this morning I hear over and over talent management, talent acquisition. But what is talent? Tell me, explain to me. Do you have a scientific formula where we can identify talent? Because it's not about you say, I feel, I seen. And I will finish with that. You ask yourself, if the vision statement of your restaurant, and it's going to be a silly one, okay? We're going to tell people we want to climb a tree. Are you going to hire a horse or are you going to hire a squirrel? Think about it. Thank you.
Elvin, Rebecca, everything from talent, sustainability, all these, let's call it corporate talk. Is it just corporate talk, or do you really resonate with what he is saying, what Christoph is saying? I mean, be honest. I mean, so many platitudes get expressed in different conferences and events, but does it really resonate with you? Elvin, let's start with you.
I think for young chefs, seriously, like what Christoph have mentioned, what are the value if they stay with you? What kind of opportunities will they be exposed to? Because a lot of time where they go, like you say, they become a cook. And what are the other opportunities besides being a cook? You know, it was never mentioned to them. And a lot of time they get bored with what they are doing. Youngsters nowadays are so IT savvy that they actually research and they do a lot of things. They know too much before they can actually learn something. So they are really opportunities. They really want opportunity that they want to learn more, they want to see more, they want to experience more. Yeah.
Learn, see, experience. Not cook?
They are cooking every day.
But it's interesting you said learn, see, and experience first. Rebecca, what do you think?
I think at the core of it, young chefs are looking for the value in every opportunity. So if they can't immediately see the value in what they're doing, they're not going to be engaged in doing it. It's like you said, 10% are engaged because the other 90% don't see the value in the day-to-day activities. They don't see the big picture of the long run. They want, immediate gratification. They want to know why they're doing what they're doing and how it's going to help them. And, are they enjoying what they're doing in this moment? They want to see the direct value.
Oh, yes. Good. And a quick follow-up to that, Rebecca. Do you buy into the mantra that was so long in our industry that, you know what, you're going to sweat, you're going to work long hours, you're going to work on weekends, you may even sacrifice a family life to get where you want to go? Would you or your colleagues really buy into that now?
They warned me that on my very first day of culinary school, they said, if you want Christmases off to spend with your family, if you want to have Valentine's Day off to spend with your boyfriend and girlfriend, get out now. This is not the industry for you. And that's just kind of been accepted because it's how it's always been, but it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way.
Can I get another applause for that? Marcus, I saw you shaking your head in disgust and probably agreeance. What do you think?
Yeah, I do agree. I would like to say you asked for one word in the beginning, purpose. You need to create this for the young people because they really need it more and really, really bad what we had when we were young once in a while. But you have to take care of the youth. You really need to listen to them, and I really mean listen to them. Let them speak freely from their heart. Don't put any questions, any thoughts in their minds. Just listen to them.
Purpose. Christoph, does purpose equate to money?
No, I've purpose. Purpose has nothing to do with money, and I think it's an interesting question because when I teach entrepreneurship at the university, and when I ask people, I say, "What's your end in mind?" People tell me, "I want to make money." Then I say, "Don't open a business." And that brings me to the next topic, and it's very interrelated, is I think every human being, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have basic needs. And the basic needs, you like it or not, you have to make a living, correct? Is anybody rich enough out there when you're born you can say, I live the rest of my life without making a living? We need to make a living, correct? The second big fundamental needs is in the process, we like to be loved. Our industry is not a very loving industry, not a caring industry. But we are saying we are in the hospitality, you know, but we are very harsh and very brutal. So remember, living, loving, and in the process, people want to learn. They want to grow. They want to become greater than themselves. And they also aspire to leave a legacy. And I think that's the fulfillment of any human being.
Elvin and Rebecca, if I said you have 2 job offers, offer number 1 is you can live, love, and learn in a nurturing environment and have a standard wage. And offer number 2 is the old school way, but 3 times more the wage. What do you take?
If for me to restart everything again, I will still go the hard way because I'm enjoying the fruits now. But for the younger generation, they will choose the easier way because they are being exposed to so much of those in Instagram, you know, celebrity chef lifestyle and things. They want it fast. You know, that's why I mentioned they already know what they need to know before they come to work. So to show them to work daily job is difficult because they don't find the passion anymore. That's why they don't see the value of that. That's what Rebecca said. It's a day in, day out job to them. You know, end of the day. They want something more interesting. They want something that feel that there's a value. I think that's what most people would pick now.
Rebecca, offer number 1. Yep. Thank you. Offer number 1, job as is, 3 times more salary. Offer number 2, job in living, loving, and learning, but less. Which one do you take?
If this was one of my first job offers and I didn't know what I know now, I would have picked the more money for sure.
Interesting.
But having been through it and knowing what I know now, I would pick the more nurturing environment for a better quality of life.
Quality of life. And how do you define quality of life?
Good work-life balance.
Yep.
Biggest thing.
Yep. And to entice somebody with a good salary and give them a horrible working environment, it's not fair to both parties. Because let's say you take option A, which is the living, loving, and learning. You are in a nurtured environment. You probably get connected with nurturing people. And the likelihood of having a job that's more than offer B was is probably quite high. Yeah? Because you'll be nurtured, you'll be mentored, and you'll learn. And that might help build your entrepreneurial skills, which will allow you to launch your own company in the future, rather than being worked to the bone and burned out and leaving the industry. Yeah? Marcus, you're an educator, and you have a unique position in that you have a wonderful school in Sweden, as well as you're connected to hundreds of schools through a group called the AEHT, which are the Association of Vocational Schools in Europe. From an educator's point of view, when you hear all of these true interests, straight from the horse's mouth, as we say, how do you think that affects in the way you're educating young people?
I think that when I was listening to the panel before us here, we really need to, in Sweden there are 3-year schools, and in many ways they are too long time. We need to be more effective, we need to be more modern, so we have the basic skills to provide the students. And I think that if we don't work with the head, with the mind, it's a mind game. In the end, for me, it's a mind game to get the right mindset for the work. But we really need to, as I said, listen to the young people, and we need to develop the education all the time. I see too many times there are educators, they are doing the same year after year after year, decade after decade. And that's, sadly, that's true. So we need to be more professional, and we would like to learn more, really learn more. When you are outside with practice with your students, when they send them away, I did it. I was at Heston, Blumenthal. I was working in the kitchen when my students were working also for a week. And then I developed myself as an educator. So that's very important also. And then we show that we are on the same level as educators than the students when we are with them at, for example, practice.
Christoph, yeah, thank you. Christoph, you and I, before this discussion, we were having a chat. You mentioned a word that I love. Remember that word?
Mm-hmm.
Related to a certain period of time? What was it?
All right, refresh my memory.
Jurassic.
Jurassic.
I love
Jurassic,
this.
Jurassic.
Tell me about our Jurassic industry.
Well, Jurassic in the sense where with what's happening right now, changes is so rapid and it's so available, it's so out there, then we have a hard time to react. And in many, many ways, in the past, when we used to say something, it stayed at that level. Today, when you start to claim things out there, the world knows about it, and if your actions cannot match your philosophy, your spirit, you have a disconnect. And that's where people disengage, and that's why I call it Jurassic. You know, this morning I made a presentation about hygiene to technology, and people still look at you and say, does it work? No, dude, I came here just to lie in your face. Of course it works. But you know what? People still love the fact that I've been using chemicals to wash my vegetables. Let's keep doing it. Why change? And change is actually the most difficult for any individual. So imagine for industry, Jurassic.
And our industry, which already was at a titanic pace of movement.
Yes.
Yeah. Elvin and Rebecca, let's go back in time. You are choosing your study. Let's assume you don't choose hospitality or culinary. What do you choose and why? Well, you throw her the tough question first.
Because I really only started with culinary.
Please go ahead, Rebecca.
If I'm being honest, this sounds
That's what we
bad,
want.
but probably something that makes a lot more money.
Why?
I mean, I have the passion, that's why I'm in this industry, but at the end of the day, passion doesn't pay the bills.
Yep.
And especially with, you know, rising costs and how things are today, it's essential to be able to pay your bills, so.
And what would that industry maybe have been? Would that have been a doctor, a lawyer, a chemist, a businesswoman?
Yeah, probably
One
one
of those. Interesting. Elvin?
Probably a doctor or scientist.
Mm-hmm.
It's the earning industry now.
Mm.
Yeah.
And doctor, you know, I've traveled all around the world and I visited a lot of these schools, particularly in Asia. And it was always the parents. You had to get over the parents because my son, my daughter is going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And it was so hard to convince them that hospitality is not being a receptionist or being a waiter. It's being a businessman or a businesswoman. It's the business of hospitality. And that is a very common thread that's used at a lot of the hotel schools also. But Marcus, do you think we're educating students to be businessmen and women with that understanding, or is it still vocational in a way?
I think you need a little bit of both. I really do. We need to be more professional and work near the industry, the companies, and but we also have the standards that are set for our schools. So we are on each feet on each plate, and we need to take that, and that's often a common thing when you talk to people in the restaurants and so on. They don't really understand how school is working because we have the government on us that we should do it in one way. And then the business want us to do it another way. I would like to find a way where you can talk to both and explain how it works and then start a path to the future.
Finally, because I know we're already running on time and I don't want to keep you people from food, which is the worst thing a moderator can ever do, food and drink. Travel. This is a unique industry that can allow you to have a global career. On the Hosco end, we completely changed our motto to making hospitality an exciting journey. Would the ability to travel, this question is to you, Rebecca and Elvin, would the ability to travel, see the world, live in, let's say, 5 or 6 different places in a span of 10 years, would that be enough to take the job that wouldn't be as high in terms of salary as well as the work-life balance?
I think nowadays the young chef, like I say, they really seek for opportunity, especially in Singapore. Actually, a lot of chefs or young chefs, basically, they want to go overseas. And a lot of them wanted to go to the Scandinavians, you know, they want to go to US because they want to experience something different that they can't get it at home. And that is something that really triggered this generation of young chefs because, like I say, they already know a lot. So for them to really understand it is to experience it by themselves. So traveling 10 years, I think is not an issue. You know, end of the day, like I say, they will rather experience it now and actually get that experience and actually do it and rather regret it later, you know, yeah.
Rebecca?
I mean, it definitely worked for me. I did my internship over in Ireland, and I was fully willing to accept that I could do it with no pay just for the experience. Luckily, I did get paid. But yeah, traveling's such a rewarding and valuable experience, and it's worth way more in its weight in pay. So I think absolutely that would entice young chefs.
And Christoph and Marcus, do you think that could be our USP, our unique selling point to this career, is that it can give you a unique global mobility that being a doctor or being a lawyer or a chemist could not? Marcus, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I really think so. I think that what Worldchefs provided is something fantastic. As you said, also the AHT organization in Europe. I think that it's really good.
Yeah, Christoph?
Yeah, I still believe that culinary arts is maybe one of the only major trade which enables a young individual to be able to travel the world. When you guys are saying you aspire doctors and lawyers, they're very restrictive because when you graduate from a law school from a certain country and you want to migrate to the other side of the world, you have to start all over again. So I still believe that it has served me that purpose. I worked in almost every continent, and it has done me well. So yeah, I believe that it is a unique value proposition. But still, my major point is the hotel industry, the restaurant industry has to create purpose. If you do not create purpose, people will have no ambition or motivation to join you. And if you ask me, we run several restaurants across different countries. We don't have staff issues. We don't. But we create purpose. And we have a very strong culture and philosophy in our enterprises. They are purpose driven. And people don't come to do a job. And what happens is the business is successful, and what we do is we reward accordingly at the point of time. You know, today nobody wants to wait for a bonus in December. And that tackles your point, Rebecca, because you know the business model has to come along. We pay bonuses every month. We meet the budget, that's it. X amount goes back to everybody. So you become part of the enterprise. And again, Marcus, to come to your point, I used to own a huge culinary school in Singapore, and I challenged the government in every form and shape. And he got me into trouble. I said, never mind. Let's change the system because you are not sustainable. And I think if you come with a sound idea, people will listen. People will listen. Otherwise, they know. If you go into the wall, they will go into the wall with you.
Yeah, yes. Clap, yeah, good. I think overall we need to understand that people who enter this industry are risk takers because it is not a linear career. Would you agree? It's not just, okay, Dad said I should be a doctor. I go to the doctor school. I become a doctor. I buy my house. I get my dog. I have my kids, and I die. It's not that, right? But I think there is a lot to entrepreneurship and risk-taking that schools and even industry can say, the reason you like this is because this is who you are. This is your personality type. I'm from Nebraska, of all places, middle of nowhere in the United States. Seriously? But I was, yeah, I know, seriously. But I was, but I was always eager to see the world. And so I chose hospitality for that reason. I studied in Switzerland. I went to Thailand. I lived in India. I have a Polish wife. I was that personality type. And I think that the young generation are also those personality types. And that this is the conduit to have that kind of a life. But as Rebecca, you excellently said, you still need to have a sustainable, and not talking planet, but financially sustainable career too. So we can balance what the industry already has, which is global opportunities. We can adopt policies such as doubling down on plant-forward initiatives to meet the trends and needs of the young people, but we got to pay them a living wage. Absolutely. Very good. I'd like to thank you all for your participation. Thank you for the audience.
Thank you.
And thank you to Worldchefs.
Thank you, John. Thank you.